Saturday I went down this way and I was thinking, oh, it's a pretty accessible spot. It's one of the nicest spots. Anybody been down to Deep Creek? You have, Tommy?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just as a recommendation for a day trip. That's where it is. So, you know, the peninsula there. That's Adelaide here. The harbour here. So you drive down to Cape Jervis where you cross to Kangaroo Island on the ferry. And just before you get to Cape Jervis you turn off at a little town called Delamere and you go in this way, and all that area is a national park. And it's very well preserved. It's like the original coastline that was there. And so it takes about an hour and a half. Not that far. And there are lots of walks around the area, and you can, you look across and you see the island. It's quite stunning. Like Saturday was such a fantastic day. Yeah, you can look across and see that, and just walk through a whole lot of valleys and so on. Some of it's steep, but a lot of it's not. Most of it's quite accessible. And there are sort of signs about difficulty levels and so on. Yeah. Lots of kangaroos, this area here. Near Goondilu, that open field area, you walk along down to the scrub. Dozens of kangaroos through there, so if you want to go and hug a kangaroo, don't know if they'll let you hug. Lots of joeys at the moment. Joey, the baby. Also snakes. Saw quite a big snake. I was walking in front of the group and probably a couple of metres away. Quite a long red-bellied black snake. You don't often see them. They're more in the east, in the States, but they're black and they have a red belly underneath. It's probably about 1.5 metres long. But it saw us and it went backwards, luckily not forwards.
Is that a quarantine?
You don't die from it, but it's not a good bite. The worst one, though, much more common and more problematic, are brown snakes. They are poisonous. A baby brown snake can kill a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you wear jeans, you'll be fine, because although they're very poisonous, they've got they haven't got long teeth, they've got short teeth. So a decent solid fabric will stop the teeth going into you. So if you wear jeans, you'll be right for brown snakes. But yeah, it's a pretty, this sort of natural, original scrub, a lot of it. There are several square kilometres of it all. And so it's very similar to, if you've been to Kangaroo Island, some of the scrub right down west. But the point is you don't have to go all that way and you don't have to jump on a ferry, and the geography is very similar to Kangaroo Island. You get this beautiful view. So that's a good tour. And there's a brochure that you can download. There's the map. So there's quite a lot of walking all through it. As you can see, it's quite hilly. But paths of different difficulty levels. Yeah, so get out and about. It's kind of important, I reckon, to see the geography of the place you're in as a cultural thing, because then when you see paintings and things, you think, oh yeah, I've seen like that thing. What's that? And even language of the natural things. You know that one, of course. Every time you get out 5 cents, it's on the coin, isn't it? You know this little animal, the echidna. You see them down in Deep Creek sometimes. My partner saw one walking up Mount Lofty the other day. What's that called? That plant. They were everywhere. I just showed a few pictures of them actually. I don't know if you can see it. See that? Yakka. Remember I've mentioned that one? I'm going to say, work hard yakka. Different spellings. You can spell it with a double K or a CK. Yakka.
I think it's the one you said it's hard to remember.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. they're everywhere down there. So, you know, just travelling around.
Fluffy when the wind blows, very fluffy, floating everywhere. That one, white colour.
They do. This stem produces little tiny
my
flowers.
is really attacking.
Ah, right.
This one.
Not wattle. Wattle generally produces more hay fever, and I haven't seen the dust come off them.
Because I saw a lot of white and floating around in the air, and like a little balloon, like that. Oh, quite scary.
Right. Yeah, well, there's a lot of hay fever around at the moment. Yeah, so anyway, that's worth doing. Alright, moodle. Let's go to the moodle. Okay, I'll just, if everyone's logged on, I'll grab your computer. Three, two, one. What are we? Black? Alright, good start. No, that's you, isn't it? There we go. Right. You just have to shut it down and restart. Okay. There's a few mop-ups now in certain categories, and I want to show you another category in a minute. We will be moving on to, we need to this week finish off our short bit of Latin. We did the back in vocabulary, academic word list, and so on. I think we did we do the visual dictionary? Not sure if we did. No, alright, I'll come back to that. Here, I think these links are still okay. I'll print these off for you. No, okay. Alright. I'll print these hard copy. We're going to work through quite a few Latin roots. I'll need to update that. Okay. And the Greek as well. Whether we get onto the Greek, I don't know, but we'll work through the Latin and make sure we do that. A few other things to show you. Did I show you? I think I showed you the prefixes and so on way back. Do you remember those? Apart from roots, obviously, main building blocks of longer words, professional and academic. Basically, you've got your root, often in the middle, not always. Prefix, suffix. So it's good to know all those building blocks. These are easier to learn because there are less of them. That's a longer process. And my emphasis tends to be there because it's a longer and more difficult process. We need more sort of instruction. But we've got some resources here. So you've probably done some of this sort of work in the past. And this is just simply a Wikipedia page because I just found it quite a useful one. This sort of thing. So A, it's not every word that begins with A, of course. Apple, not a prefix. But, atheist, for example. We've talked about that one before. A, without, not existing. Theo, God. So acyclic, does not recycle. Asexual, not sexual. Atheist, so on. So they are worth knowing. The nice thing is, I think you'll get a good, pleasant surprise. You look down those and you say, know that, know that, know that. It's a bit like the academic word list. Your job is to fill the gaps. At this level, you know most. You might get a few little tricky ones like that one. Like twin.
Twilight.
Twilight, two lights, dark and light. They have. Okay, I'm not sure what they mean by native and neoclassical. Okay, these are coming from Latin more. These ones. Some of those might be a bit less known, but quite a few you know already. They are very common. So that's your prefixes, worth working through and just kind of ticking them off, you know, and keep your eye out. I mean, this is where I've said before, input, input, input. If you're reading a lot and you've just read these last week, you say, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is, there's that prefix. So you've got to reinforce it in reality, reading real stuff, what they call authentic stuff. Reading. There's another link there of just classifying them a bit more. And I've got a couple of links with suffixes too. So again, another list, but you know, it's mainly, so it's in groups you've got there. Suffixes. Suffixes tend to control, we talked about this before, the grammatical side of things, so you're part of speech. So if you have a part of speech problem, if you've got PS quite a lot in your error category, that's something to focus on, isn't it? So, for example, beauty and beautification. Alright, that's making a verb, isn't it? That's making a noun. Both still coming from the same structure, facere, which means to make or do. Yeah. And that's a fairly easy and clear one. But, you know, if you say, oh, I want to beautification my street, it doesn't work. That's a fairly serious error. I want to beautify my street, no worries. So, getting good knowledge of suffixes will help control, it's not the total answer, it will help control your part of speech issue. Prefixes tend to change meaning, suffixes tend to change grammar. There's a general pattern. So the suffixes are here. And what's nice about this is it doesn't just show, there is meaning also in a lot of suffixes. So agodji. And that's an interesting one. I'll just pen this out. So if we take agodji, and we know two other roots, head and demo. These are quite common roots. Ped, think of our article we're reading, paediatrics. Ped, what's ped mean? Child, right. It can also mean foot. Pedal, and even pod, tripod, yeah. Pedestrian, person who walks. So it's two possibilities, child or foot. I don't know why they're the same. Maybe you kick children with your feet. Is that right? I don't know. So, if that means to lead, pedagogy, to lead children, or to teach. That's what it means, teach. Demo means, demonstrate, to show lots of people, democracy, rule by the people, demographic, measuring population, demo is people, demagogy, leading people. If you say somebody's a demagogue, they're a person who gets up and they speak very sort of emotionally, lots of pathos, not much logos, you know, but they lead, they catch the people and they lead them. It's usually a negative word. Leading people, groups negatively in sort of bad political directions, a demagogue. So again, you get control of these things and they produce, you know, sort of get 5 for the price of 1. It's a good shopping deal, you know. Archy, think of all the archies, matriarchy, matri, mother, women controlling society, patriarchy, hierarchy, oligarchy, oligo, small group, robust, etc., etc. They're really worth knowing. I can't stress it enough. If you learn these, you will really accelerate your professional vocab. And this one's quite nice because there are lots of these. We just take a random one, S, and we want to know what sepalus means. Does not exist. Okay, the red ones are still being filled out because it's a Wiktionary. Stasis. Slowing down, stopping. So lots of medical words have stasis in them. Just to emphasise at least the perceived importance of these, at certain nursing courses here, the first term, one of the subjects is just learning lots of Latin and Greek roots, because it's just that investment. This is for native speakers, non-native, whoever's in the course. Just so the next 3 years you don't have to think about long words, you just know all these elements, and it makes it so much easier to learn and remember and understand what they're referring to. So we can take that same idea and transfer it more generally, that these things are really they're kind of power words, so they have more impact really than learning single words. Suffixes and parts of speech, I'll put this up because this emphasises, the early one on suffixes emphasises the sort of meaning. These are emphasising how they change the grammar. So you got the groups here. They'll make nouns. These make verbs. There's phi, you can see it there. And there's the Asian or shin one. And you got adjectives, suffixes, and so on. Now learning those, of course, are going to help you guess vocabulary as well, aren't they? You know how your first question I'm suggesting should be, what part of speech am I looking at? Am I looking at a noun? Am I looking at a verb? Then if you've got those under your belt, you'll be able to immediately say, that's a noun. And then make further guesses. So you've got one there and you've got a second one. Not sure if it's longer or not. I usually put up a couple because they don't always, it's a bit like stated verbs. Not one list captures everything, so it's worth having a look at different ones. Yeah, it looks like it there, doesn't it, at least in this list. Yeah, showing how and where they come from, like that changes a verb to a noun. So there's a little bit more information about it. Not just a noun, but that form will be changing, the original will be a verb. That's sometimes useful to know. Alright, so there's a bunch there. Alright, Americanisms, yeah. Creeping into British English and Australian English. Well, it's just worth knowing the difference between what's sounding very American and what's not. So there's a few natives have sort of commented here. Half hour instead of half an hour. Little change. A half hour, American. Half an hour, what we would say. That's a British site, but given that Australian English is very close to the British, you'll see having an issue instead of a problem. That's interesting. So you can see the people's names there just contributing. I got it for free, not you got it free. My mother always used to go on about that one. She used to hate that one. That's the thing, that some people will hate Americanisms. Not hate Americans, just hate Americanisms, because it's this sort of TV junk kind of coming into the language. Most Americanisms have the feel of TV junk. That's the thing. I mean, if you think of what's around in terms of how it's influencing our language, it's mainly that sort of stuff. And so those words have that certain connotation and they have that association. So, it depends if you want to sort of project that image of TV junk, go ahead. But otherwise, and this one has quite a long list. Yeah, I mean that's a classic one. Nappy versus diaper. Sounds terribly American. Somebody says that. It just doesn't work here. Just sounds like a TV show. So, yeah. Dish rag. Tea towel. We call it a tea towel, not a dish towel. Dish towel. Okay. That's a little bit different again. Anyway, there's a couple of those there. Just remember, $50 fine, right? And with GST increase, it's going to go up, isn't it? It's going to be more. Yeah.
At the beginning, there was some Greek at the very beginning, before the academic showcase.
Before?
Example, sorry.
No, it would be, there were those Latin ones here, this one.
Greek elements.
Yeah, so Greek, and I think that page is not working, honey. I'll give you, is it? Oh, that one's working, yeah. Okay. Yeah, right, so thank you. Along with the Latin, you've got Greek. Greek words there. You know this one, philo, loving. Yeah. So hydrophilic, loving water, hydrophilic molecules, or philosophy. Yeah. So Greek is used a lot in the pure sciences, even more than Latin. Latin spreads into general education, civil life, government. Greek tends to be more science and philosophy. Now, academic word list, and I've shown you the academic phrase bank. This link here, so it's about a dozen up from the bottom in vocabulary. Someone's collected these. I think they've done a. That will work on your tape for blocking that. God knows why. That's just a spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet of academic phrases used in. They've got 3 columns, I think. There's writing and speaking, and it's arranged in terms of frequency. So the most frequent academic structures, which would be worth you just having a look through and having a look at, simply because if it's arranged in terms of frequency, you want to be kind of familiar with those ones. And they're basically collocational chunks. And so a bit like the phrase bank that I've shown you, but that was done manually, whereas this is done statistically with computers. So have a look at that at home. Okay, weasel words. Let's jump down to weasel words. All right, Daddy Rose. We'll go to Don Watson. Oh, Don Watson's gone. Google this. That's sites. Don Watson, I don't know if you've noticed, he's on our public intellectual list. And right, there's something wrong with his site. Why can't we get there? This is an ad for his book, though. That's a pity. No, okay. You have to. there's an article by him. I've mentioned him before. He's the guy who wrote the speech, the Paul Keating speech. And weasel words are the empty words in the language, and he's written that article there. I'm going to have to re-establish those links and find, I don't know if he's taken his site down or what. But it's good to, not every word in the language is a positive word. Some are empty. They've been emptied by other people's malpractice, bad practice. And do you want to use them? Here's one item. Here's the latest one. They're words that probably it's happening in your native language. People are inventing new words. And it's usually companies and organisations that do it to sound kind of cool. But there's usually been a word already that means the same thing. Our managers now say moving forward. It means from now on, like into the future. But they say moving forward because it sounds cool. They think it sounds cool and sort of dynamic and as if things are in motion and it gives an energy. So if we say our company moving forward will ensure that it has, here's another one, best practice. Just open up a company website and read all the kind of words that are said over and over again by every other company, and they're empty, because they all say it, right? It's like, this is what you have to be careful with your resume, isn't it? How many weasel words are in your resume? I'm a team player. Everyone's a team player. All 500 applications I get, everyone's a team player. They're just empty. They're dead. And that's, the more companies advertise and promote and try to capture everybody's attention, they're all competing. There's this economic competition using words, and they're just killing words. And, do you want to be using those words? Like, how many, I think I've mentioned this one before. Since the environment's become a concern, all companies are sustainable, aren't they? Even BHP's sustainable, even though, there was the toxic dam collapse in Brazil due to probably the fact that they engaged in cheap practices and didn't protect that community properly. But they're sustainable. Everybody's sustainable. And that word meant something 30 years ago, but now it's everybody's sustainable, and even TAFE's sustainable, and it's not. So management in TAFE spend $400,000 a year on car parks. And I calculated that would be 150 diploma students. that could fund, And they all go on about sustainability and riding bikes, but this little bunch of, I'm going to erase this. This little bunch of half a dozen managers spend 400 grand, on car parking, so they can drive their car here. Yeah, most of the teachers catch public transport or me on a bicycle or whatever. That could be sold off and put into actual education. But we call ourselves sustainable. It's empty. It's dead, isn't it? So I'm just, this word, hypocrisy. A lot of companies and organisations engage in that. They say they're this and they do something else, so they've killed the word. That's what Don Watson is interested in. And of course, politicians and politics does it all the time. And as I mentioned, Don Watson wrote speeches for Paul Keating where he did the opposite. He re-injected meaning and life into words and created the most powerful speech in Australian history, the Redfern speech. And Paul Keating was brilliant with words, even though I totally disagree with his politics because he was a complete right-wing neoliberal who restructured the Australian economy for the market, but linguistically he was brilliant. So the two of them had a big kind of influence on political language, positive one really. So yeah, unfortunately we've lost his link there, and I don't think anybody's going to talk about him. Anyone doing Don Watson? I don't think. So I'm going to have to resurrect those links. It's good to know what to avoid, basically, so you don't fall into that problem. I think those are the main. There's one thing. Maybe we could do it now, and it's a bit of activity for you. A practical, very practical thing. Where's it gone? Visual dictionary.